Hey, it's James, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 31st of October. I was about to say 31st of Halloween to 6th of November. I sit now. I used to sit back in the day for years, and it's been a different setup for a long time, and it was a standing desk, so I was able to stand during digest, and I thought it'd be healthy and everything, but I'm over it. I'm getting old. I turned 29 this week, so I'm getting old, okay? Not old enough though. First, for some vids that I thought they were not good. And that, try not to be mean about it or anything, but obviously I'm giving a negative rating on them, I guess. But look, I can dream, Harold. I can do what I want. This first one's from a channel I've not talked about before, Kai-kun. I don't think I've talked about this stuff. Like a classic shapes, yeah. Every Evangelion video essay. And look, I am mighty interested in conversations about standards in anime YouTube and having better standards. Just yeah, the criticism of this. But like, yeah, I know exactly who you're taking from with this thumbnail. Maybe some other people have done this exact idea, but this is a Beyond Ghibli thumbnail. And I talked about that that Ava video on Digest years ago. Gosh. But like, I don't remember the specifics or details about it, and there's certainly things you can say about Evangelion video essays for sure. It's quite the breed, quite the the ripe for the picking of like to tear these things apart, really. But like, I guess my problem with this one is it kind of didn't. It could have gone one of two ways, and it struck a middle road that it didn't just didn't do anything for me, really. This could have been parody, like really funny kind of skewering kind of parody. And the one joke that this had that I'll give it to was really funny is the chunk in the middle of the video where it's like, this is the copyrighted strike section, so instead of re-uploading this, I did some funky things with the visuals to get it through copyright. That is so funny. That calls out so many people. That's really funny and classic. And Ava in particular, I think, has that issue. So I think that was an astute observation. But it was hard for me to consider this as parody because I didn't find it all that funny. And I have kind of a bad sense of humor where I find the kind of humor I like is more YouTube poop, I guess. I think it's hard for things to strike as funny for me, and if they don't, it's just really really falls flat for me. So I guess I'm putting this in not good as I didn't find it funny or whatever. But no, I think there's the other option you could have gone where this actually cites other Ava essays and try to like skewers them in a way. And I know I don't know if Urban actually ended up making that video, going ahead through with making that one, or it was just something he talked about. But I know he was interested in making something like this along these lines. It's ripe. It is perfect for the, and I can tell that you are taking from certain things of like obviously the thumbnails from Joe's video, but then all the Ano focus and et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of easy pickings, I guess. But I mean, I guess for me it didn't feel it didn't have much teeth to it because you didn't cite anything in particular. You're just kind of calling things out. And when you do that, you can just say whatever and accuse Ava videos of doing this thing. And, under this guise of parody or this criticism, the audience is kind of inclined to believe it, but I'm not so much that. I think a video, a topic like this succeeds, or a takedown of this succeeds with quality evidence, not even a quantity of evidence. You don't need to show everything because that's just cumbersome. I'm dealing with this exact dynamic or approach with my main channel video that I'm working on. it is a matter of just citing the most like the most salient and like strongest examples, and that's hard to do with the subject I'm doing, and I can imagine with Ava videos or whatever. It is trying to find the strongest points, but it did feel like oftentimes you were riffing in ways that like, or how big of a deal is this really? That's hard. So I'm worried about that too with my own video too, where I'm like, am I just making a mountain out of a molehill type of deal? I'm certainly, I probably am. But but that's why, because we're interested in these sorts of things, and I'm appreciative that you make something like this. I guess it just kind of went that balance where it didn't fully function as a full-blown critique or takedown of these types of essays, but it wasn't full parody either, because it just didn't have, I feel like it didn't have any kind of like, you could have built up to more of a absurd level. The delivery could have been sharper, or like more like emotional, or expressive, I guess. I don't know. I think the fact that it was so monotone, and that's probably again part of the parody part, but then if you're reeling back on the performative aspect, you really need the script to be exaggerated in some way. I just felt like the comedy of it wasn't really there. So it just felt kind of, yeah. So it didn't do much for me. I think that's all of it really. But yeah, I apologize, is what it is. But I just want to give my unsolicited feedback on that. As Digest B, somewhere past never put out a ChatGPT writing a Halloween episode of Yu Yu Hakusho. And it's so fun. I didn't even recognize that it was ChatGPT. It's in the title of the video, but like I don't know. I just kind of like, it was in the watch later, and I was like, oh, that sounds kind of funny or whatever. Because I like Yu Yu Hakusho, and it's a Halloween thing type of thing. And I didn't even recognize, like, when I started watching the video, I actually mentally blocked out the title for some reason, and I was just kind of watching it. And the format is a visual novel style, and has the various characters, and some are rich, some things. I like using the Scooby-Doo ghost as one of the things. That was kind of nice, and the backgrounds and everything. But it's in the format of a visual novel, and it's all voice performed. But what got me realizing that this was AI was that it was the performances, like everything was voice acted, but it felt weird. It felt like, well, that's a weird way to deliver that line or whatever. And I was also like curious, like, I wonder who the voice performer is. And then I look in the description, it's like, yeah, I used AI to make all these voices or whatever. And you do also say that like ChatGPT gave you this, but then you added stuff to punch things up a little bit, or to insert your humor in places. And I do think those glimpses of where that, what, like, I could kind of tell where those were, because that's where it had the most life in it. Now, I'm not anti AI or something. I'm not really like super like, this is evil by whatever. No. I think it is just the result that comes out of it, right? And if it was pure ChatGPT, then I think it would be kind of like fun to see the absurdity, because it's not there yet. We all know it's not there yet. It's impressive. It's certainly, I mean, generative text, like, this is impressive in some regard, but in terms of like fooling and, seeing what I think part of the whole edifice of the title, when you're like, I use ChatGPT to make this thing, I think it's implying that like, oh, isn't this chatbot not up to snuff yet? Like, oh, what a kind of flaccid, whatever kind of thing that it would churn out. But no, it was more like kind of earnest, because also that you tried to spice it up in your own way, and you're really trying to make this kind of entertaining thing. And it's okay. I think it was too long. I definitely think it was too long, and getting to the part where like they're having the trivia thing with the monster, I think that was the most interesting part, and the one that felt most like Yu Yu Hakusho, if anything. The other thing about it, it's well, the reason I don't think it was that good is that I don't think it was very faithful or indicative of Yu Yu Hakusho or of visual novels, of the visual style that you're giving. With I have not played a ton of VNs, but from what I'm familiar with, there's not a ton of narration, is there? This was like 70% narration. And then you're bouncing between like four or five characters, you know? But a lot of it was narration, and there's even parts of this narration where the narrator inserts themselves with like, I couldn't believe that happened, or something like that, or like giving their opinion on something. It's like, it's like, I don't know. I guess narrated is kind of a funny way to do it, I guess, but wasn't as, it felt stiff for a visual novel and for Yu Yu Hakusho, because like, yeah, like the core appeal of this show of that series is the characters, and so you want to see them interacting with each other, bounce off each other in sparking in kind of tensious ways, and there wasn't a whole lot of that in this story. And it's like, well, like, but then that's the thing with ChatGPT, I guess, where people are kind of like whatever about it, where if you criticize the story, it could just be like, well, ChatGPT made it, don't worry, don't take it too seriously. I didn't put that much effort into it. But then if it was good, you'd be like, wow, it's great, wow. I don't know, it's the tool itself is it. I'm not like wholly against it in principle or something. It's just how you use it. It's just how you use it. I think if ChatGPT gives you prompts and then you extrapolate out of that, and the video becomes out of your creativity, out of your passion for this series, and not just kind of like using it as just using it, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I don't know, I should have expected less maybe, or like my standard should be lower. I don't know. I didn't take too much out of it. I thought there was a creative idea, really, and I just would have wished the actual kind of like craft never kind of went through with it. I would, again, it's not out of the ChatGPT thing, but it really is just like, okay, use that, but what's the result? It's kind of overlong, flaccid, not much to kind of generic. You could swap a lot of these characters with other characters besides Yu Yu Hakusho, like a different series or something, and it wouldn't make too much of a difference with the general pace and structure of it, really. There's not much to it, so I didn't get much out of it. That's all. And I don't care by this point. Anivember, they're doing a he says that Nathan, the channel's I don't care by this point, and then the creator's Nathan. Nathan did mention it's inspired by Disneycember and video Monster Madness from Cinemassacre. And this just, whenever an anime YouTuber does it, it's a Mia Mafova. It's maybe I'll make a fucking video. But that's obviously for people who don't upload that often, or need this as a way to grease their wheels, pretty much. And I don't necessarily think Nathan needs to do that, because he's been uploading pretty consistently, regularly, and without much like, I personally need a lot more like feedback and reception to my videos. Oftentimes, like I lack that. But it seems that Nathan just kind of goes and goes and goes and goes, regardless of the reception or whatever, and I appreciate that. I think that's the kind of thing you need to kind of break into YouTube at this point. It's that diligence and just practicing your craft over and over, and this is great practice for that. Also, it's just not even just like of making videos, but even just talking about anime in a substantive way. And now I hate to give this not go, so I just wanted to shout this whole project out, because it's something he's doing all month, and best of luck with all this. It's not easy at all, but it's exciting. And the video after this is one of his most popular videos now, or it's growing a lot, is it's a Hajimete no Gal review. But I decided to go with the first iteration of this, because it includes like a 2-minute explanation. And it's about Cowboy Bebop, so I like Cowboy Bebop, something I like. So yeah, I was interested in it. And the way he starts was like, what can I say about Bebop that hasn't already been said? And then kind of goes on to say a lot of what's already been said, kind of describing it plot. And I like that, his like, I didn't know that Vicious was that great of a character or whatever, and highlighting that one Piero episode and stuff like that. Little bits like that were fine. Um, I guess with feedback I would want to give with the vid, I think. Um, One is I don't know about the volume. I don't know about I guess this is like a technical thing, but like the voice the voice recording, as well as there is a little music underneath, but all of it is lowered so low. It's not like a deal breaker or anything like that, but I think it feels like you're at an arm's distance from the video, even physically, because it's like you're along it's like you're watching the video from all the way over there. Um, and to me, the advantage of making videos out of something like this, like just talking about Bebop little review, is like you should watch Cowboy Bebop, right? Uh, which I guess depends on what your audience is, who your audience is, if they're complete newcomers. But I guess for me, like if I would, I'm not to say that to dictate whatever audience you should be targeting, but like I feel like there's more people who have not seen who have seen Cowboy Bebop than have not seen it, compared to something like Anime Back When, talking about this anime that definitely is not on has barely anyone's heard of kind of deal. Um, so you kind of have to target like based on what you're talking about. So with Bebop, it's like I would have come from the approach of you've seen it, so what can I do to kind of expand your appreciation or thought about it? Um, and that doesn't include sort of like just talking about it generally, like the synopsis and stuff like that. I think there was really good stuff of you focusing on the one Piero episode and stuff like that, and being specific and talking about certain moments, and generally, but also again the difference between just making a video and making like a blog post or something like, or a tweet or whatever, is that you have the advantage of the media itself, because you're talking about a visual medium, as well as it's audio, uh, embracing the aesthetics of the show itself into the video. I think would have really helped with immersion and guide people along to what you're talking about. Um, yeah, and Bebop is such a rich, aesthetically pleasing kind of show too, right? It's ripe for that sort of thing. Whereas I can understand trying to craft your own aesthetic, wrestling it around that, and kind of contorting it to the show that you're talking about for some other titles that don't have as much of a distinct character to them or distinct identity musically or visually. It's just a show, and you know how it is, some of these. Um, but Bebop, there's a lot of material there visually and audibly that like I think you could have taken more advantage of. That like, even if you're not saying that much of anything of substance, which is one thing where it's like I would want and hope that sort of deal. Um, but also even if you don't necessarily have that, and it's a lot of like kind of reminding people of the ideas of Bebop with the lines and the characters and stuff like that, even if it's just functioning in that way, um, bringing that visual and audio alongside it, so they could be watching an episode of Cowboy Bebop right now instead of your video or something, but instead they're choosing to watch your video. So it's sort of like, okay, it's about Bebop. You want to kind of get a taste of that, or what do you want to show of Bebop, I guess. Um, yeah, and I think that's the crux of it, really. But I just wanted to shout that, and I'm sorry this is more than like the not good section, but like, it's because I didn't get too much out of it. That's all. That's understandable. I just wanted to shout this out regardless, because I've been subbed to your channel for a long time, and there wasn't a good entry point that I felt like I really wanted to talk about something. But being a month-long project is always something I want to highlight, because it's a lot of work and a lot of commitment to this sort of thing, and that's something I always want to highlight and celebrate, regardless of where it lands in the, because I want to shoot straight with the people, with viewers and with the creators I'm talking about. That like I'm not gonna like be nice. I guess I could be nice, and I guess I should be, but I'm trying to be as polite as possible. I hope I'm not trying to be like, this video sucked, anything like that. I don't think I am. Anyway, yeah, I was interested in the video. I didn't get too much out of it personally, but like that's understandable. Like 2 minutes, like a third of the video is talking about what the project is, where you had a teaser video. It's like you could have had it there, or try to truncate that to like 30 seconds. Let's get to Bebop. But yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about it. I find it interesting. Okay, and now for some videos I thought were decent, pretty good. All right. First from the Anime Man, Osashi Buri. I survived 24 hours using only Evangelion merch. Sounds familiar. So, yeah. The first thing I realized when I started clicking on this video and you kind of went into it was, wait, Red Bard has totally made this video before. And it's not an obscure, like, it's the second most popular video on their channel. Over 1 million views. So, but Joey is coming from a different, unique approach with this, which I appreciated. He's coming, instead of what Red Bar did, which is create a hypothetical solution, just kind of listing all the possible Evangelion merch there is. And the framing is, can I live on only the merch? Joey actually lives it, actually tries to, and buys various amounts of Evangelion merchandise. And I'm happy that he's transparent halfway through the video, that the real whole impetus behind this, where I'll also say, it didn't feel like he was the most invested in this kind of video. It wasn't like, oh my god, I can't wait to make this video, you guys. He had a sponsorship from this Asus or something. I don't know if it's a computer company making a Evangelion themed PC, and a third of the video is him building this PC, which he says like he wasn't really into it. He wasn't really a biggest fan of doing, so he has someone help him here. But he still commits to the whole thing and builds it. And he's been doing this a long time, and and I've talked about it in this way, but he's got this air of professionality to him these days. It's definitely because, like, he's backed by Geeks Plus and everything like that, and using nothing of no clips, no music, nothing. They were all very squeaky clean, which is cool and fine. And yeah, I think the reason this was decent was, I think the reason this was decent was because like he committed to buying a lot of this merchandise. He had some of it already. A good chunk of this was kind of an excuse to show off this Ava merch that he has. It kind of felt that way, and a little bit of a flexing type of video, which a little old fashioned these days, I guess. But for anime and anime centric, that's it's a unusual niche. It's actually kind of something not a lot of us do, I guess. But it's cool, and I enjoyed it. At least it was interesting because he's not just showing it off, and like it's not as shallow of a flex. He does do a decent job with describing it, and again acting pretty professional with how he's addressing the audience, and doing the various YouTube things of jumping to a later point in the video or something like that, or foreshadowing and stuff. Yeah, but it like once he revealed that it was the PC, it was all for a PC thing that he's promoting. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. He's sort of just like, within the money he has, he's able, or because he's not buying. He talks a little bit about like, the apartment that's Ava themed and the car that's Ava themed, and it's like, I'm clearly not doing that. Come on. But he does feel like he's coming from a place of some genuine privilege where, he has this sponsor, this opportunity with this sponsor, and being in Japan, so he was able to buy a lot of this stuff. Um, but there's still things in that, so it's like I can understand people being cynical about this kind of video or whatever. But I guess the stuff that made it work for me again was the professionalism and general affability he has on camera. But then also, it there's various small things that he did that I was like, that's really smart, or just like kind of a neat as a YouTuber, I guess, where he showed off his record of Ava 3.0 plus 1.0's OST. And he's like, I can't play any of it, but if you want to listen to my discussion and reaction of it while listening to it, that's like a separate unlisted video on his Patreon. I'm like, that was a cool bonus type of thing, and like a good tease for that. I thought that was neat. And then right before the PC build, he did kind of this sketch of, he's like, I don't really want to build this PC, and then he like acts as Gendo and has a little sketch. They're like, no, you must build a Ava PC, and he's like, but I don't want to, and play SG whatever. And that was really authentic. I thought that was really well done with the dialogue was very accurate, you know, for the Japanese dialogue, and is performing it really emotive, you know, aggressively, like really well. And all the effects and stuff like that. I thought it was really a great moment, and you can tell I don't know if that was like, yeah, it probably was. Because that's like the end of the ad almost, where he's talking, this is sponsored by this thing, whatever. But that's like the best part of the video, I think, because it just had a lot of fun and creativity and energy to it. But then, you know, I'm not trying to nitpick, and I'm actually that like some of the stuff in the thumbnail he doesn't actually do. Like he doesn't get into a plug suit or anything like that. But no, there's things that I found it fairly entertaining. Yeah, yeah, it was interesting. It's interesting to check out, I think. Funebure with his Halloween special, doppelgangers are scary. He's so he's so absurd. Yeah, and absurd's like and it's not like absurd in a derogatory way. I just find that the humor and format, like I just didn't. I love that he's doing completely different things every time, and not even in the way of like the way I do different things every time. Like at the end of the day, most of my videos are either essays or AMVs, right, on my main channel. But like, funny, there's a lot of them are skits, but they're not. It's hard to just boil them down to skits or whatever. It's stuff I've never seen before. It's indecent only because like it's so short and not as expansive broad, and it's kind of a one consistent idea, just like the two characters at a table and stuff, and him acting as both characters. So there isn't much to it. But again, I really appreciate the creativity and again kind of absurdity that like this fixation on like the anime love stage was really funny. And it just really enigmatic and impactful, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I wanted to shout that out just because like I'm just blown away every time how he's able to just, it's not like, oh, it's another Funebure video, even though it's like, yeah, this is exactly this is exactly something he would make or whatever. But it's still completely unexpected, I guess. And yeah, I'd always just really like his humor and sense of style and the technicality of effects and artistry on display is always great. Yeah, I really liked it. Very, very nice. This isn't fair. Why do I feel like crap? When I'm sitting, it's not fair. Maybe it's my posture. Oh, SSShamimi. Sorry for pronouncing that wrong. The message of Attack on Titan, Section 1, the philosophy of ignorance. Oh, man. I'll tell you. I'll be straight up. I wouldn't have clicked on this video by myself, but he did send it to me. And I'm like, no guarantees, but I'll give it a try. And I do want to talk about it because I think it was reminiscent of the kinds of massive projects that I catch myself into. And so it's sort of seeing this as a not cautionary thing, but I guess, I don't know. It's like, yep. Yeah, it's a learning experience for me too, basically. Um, his whole MO here is that he wants to talk about everything in Attack on Titan. Um, well, first of all, the way you start the video being like, it came out in 2013. I'm like, the manga was earlier. You know, I think I'm actually at the right, you know, but like, it's when it feels like it's a whole thing. It's like, okay, are you talking about the manga and because it's originally a manga? Everything you're talking and you do pretty much have the anime and manga pretty interchangeably. Um, but you're obviously using anime a lot because for just for simplification, similar to what Mark would do, I guess. Um, that's just a nitpick. But the real idea here, you ended up making this big chart of all the characters and their affiliations. And I didn't look too much in detail of everything because I assumed that it's going to be explained in the, you know. But I don't think there's any overlap in characters. I think that all the characters are represented once, but I could be wrong. um, and also the circles could mean different things. There's a lot of complexity, and to a point where there was moments where I was feeling like you're making it too complex. You know, it's like I don't know if, and I don't want to be like, oh, like discouraging analysis like this or anything. I don't want to be like that. Um, but you don't want to make it too complicated for the sake of leading your audience through it. So that's the big takeaway for me with this video is that like there's so much here and you're diving into it and you're indulging in it and experiencing the richness and giving the examples, and the presentation's very lavish, pretty snappy, and great transitions and you know, consistently arresting visuals that are relevant to what's going on. But I think it's I didn't really, as a newcomer, as a complete like, I've never seen this chart before. I've seen Attack on Titan, but I've never seen what you're doing here. It didn't feel like you explained the entire, you know, the overview basically. I didn't know what part one was going to encapsulate. I don't know what the 6 parts are going to encapsulate. I guess if you're going to make like this as a big project and you're systematically talking about everything, I, at least as a viewer, would be comforted in knowing what the structure of this series is. And the structure is clearly based on this chart, but then it's like, okay, so next time which one are we talking about? Why are we starting on philosophy of ignorance? And I don't feel like I got that from the video itself, but I was able to kind of rationalize it that the reason it's the first one is because that's where the characters all start out as. They are completely ignorant, and the readers as well, because the readers are in their position. Everyone is completely ignorant of the full truth of the whole world. It's a series all about reveals and developments and uncovering of things. So the living in ignorance, or just the idea of ignorance and the dangers and the, you know, back and forth of this sort of philosophy of it all, it makes sense to start that out as the first one. And I guess that I would have wanted that to be a little clearer, so that I as a viewer can be grounded in what's going on, so that I can be invested in what you're talking about. And everything else seemed very sound. I liked all the connections you were making. It was followable in that way. But I guess it's like, if you're making a big project, there needs to be some kind of progression that the audience can follow that's easy. And that's why you have creators like Totally Not Mark go chronologically. He just kind of goes through the whole story beat by beat, arc by arc. And unfortunately, that does lead into a potential trap of story regurgitation, where you're just kind of recounting the story instead of genuinely analyzing it. That is a very potential danger, that you know, it's not the worst thing. It's not like a mortal sin or something. But if you have a big analysis video, it does help to have that kind of spine, so that the audience can compartmentalize the points that you're talking about. And you have the spine right here. You literally have it all laid out. And I guess I would have even just going like, this video is talking, maybe I missed it because videos like, because again, I think it was towards the beginning, right? I'm still finding my footing as an audience member. I don't know if it was fully communicated. I didn't really rewatch this or something. But I missed out where it's like, oh, we're going this way. We're going this way down the chart. Until you were already there. And then we were starting to talk about ignorance kind of at like the 2/3 mark. And I'm like, there's the title. You know? That was tricky about it. But yeah, I just felt like, and I'm not saying you have to go chronologically in the story or something like that. I'm saying that's a suggestion. That's a potential, like, this is one strategy video makers or essay or anybody, like, making a documentary about something, it helps to go chronologically from when the person is born to when they die, following their life or whatever, or following the season of it. Like, one of my favorite documentaries, The Last Dance, it follows the Chicago Bulls in their second three-peat, the 96 season, 95-96 season, I think, or 96-97, which one of those. They tell it's the whole series is over that season, which is called The Last Dance. But in between, they go kind of player by player and telling the rest of their story, filling it in as they go. So they start from kind of Michael Jackson joining, in college, and then the NBA, and then with the Bulls, and their progression to winning those previous 5. It's basically like, you were told at the beginning that they have won 5 championships almost in a row. Almost. Like, they did a three-peat, and they missed one, and then they're doing another three-peat. And this is like their second three-peat. It's The Last Dance. Everyone's going to break up after this. But then as a newcomer myself, you were able to kind of like, they were able to fill that in rest for you. Even if you know that they won, it's still like finding in all those developments and even reincorporating them into the current narrative. So stuff like that. And that way you're able to kind of invest your audience, and the audience is excited for what's happening next. Here, you have the whole map at least, so that's good. But how much you're developing in each of that map is always, that's the subjective, that's the art of it. That's the tricky part. So it's like, when you get like in its entirety, I've had the exact same idea. I've had the exact same thought about like my all-time favorite, Ashino Joe. And I tried starting to write it or whatever, but then it's like, where do you even go? Where do you even start? How much of each, what do you focus on and everything like that? And what it would encompass everything in that way. And so instead I'm trying to find ways of like, the structure kind of in answering a particular question or a concept, and not just sort of like make the definitive thing of something, I guess, if that makes sense. Like that's where my creative space has turned to. I'm not saying you should do that too, or I'm not, do whatever. But I guess it's a reflection of what I've been doing as a creator. At first I've had those ideas of making kind of the definitive XYZ of the review or analysis of something. But now I've been focusing more on exploring these ideas and big questions about these series that no one else has really answered before, kind of deal. And in so doing, having a broader understanding of these subjects as a whole. So like my Naruto video, that's one where I loved so many different things, and I just wanted to talk about very particular aspects. I wanted to make a Naruto Sasuke rivalry video. I wanted to make a video about the filler. I wanted to make a video about the animation. So I kind of linked all of them together and being like, I'm just going to get all my Naruto shit out at once while I'm still into it, right? That was my perspective on it. But then it didn't have a appealing structure to it, right? It was just literally 7 videos kind of attached to one another that were explicitly not related to one another. They were not building on top of each other. If anything, they were trying to isolate themselves from each other so they didn't have to, so you didn't repeat any points. So what I'm saying, I mean, you have the structure and the with this graph and everything. I think just leaning on that more and we're gonna navigate that, and here's my essay, and this what justifies this grouping and stuff like that. I don't know. And obviously you need to kind of culminate to like, where does this build to? What's Isayama's answer to conflict, us versus them? And I mean, I know the answer because I've watched the show and the way he answers it at the end. But I like all the ways that Attack on Titan has explored it in all different ways. And that's what that's the idea behind this, I suppose. So I know that, with a big project like this, it's already been mostly set in motion. So there is not much that this commentary can do to affect that, I guess. But that would be my perspective, is that you need to have more of a perspective of the other viewer that is not in your head, that has not done this whole big thing, and be like, how do I communicate this to a fresh perspective? Not from someone who hasn't seen Attack on Titan, but from someone who has not seen this chart before, I guess. But I know bloating the video with explaining the project in general is a lot, and you just want to get to the analysis of it itself. I think all you really need is just like, okay, this video, we're tackling this part of the chart. So what's this part? And then it's like, not to be super hand-holdy and explicit, I guess, but I think you hopefully get the idea. Yeah. This was nice to ruminate about. I appreciate you sending this to me. Yeah. Thanks for watching animebackwhen. Anime OVAs you missed. Yeah, I've missed that. I've never heard of this one. Either of them. The 90s version or the 2000s, which I appreciate that you talked about both of them, and that they were by the same creator as Blue Submarine. And yeah, there wasn't as much like concrete detail that I took out of it. I think a lot of your videos at this point, for me, I end up enjoying them largely for vibes. The way that you talk about things so casually and friendly, and in an interesting, thoughtful way. And I like that you were talking about just the general obscurity of this thing. That's like, we wouldn't have found this. We wouldn't have even heard of this thing before. And it's nice that we can, it's just the rumination of the obscurity and uncovering of these things that was kind of the focus towards the end of the video, was something I really appreciated. I also, I like that you've been changing the visual style, like tweaking it every so often, like incrementally, and it's getting even better and better. I think it's really lovely to look at and to watch and experience. And you're using the aesthetics of the shows themselves, with the music and stuff like that. They're vibes, man. They're good vibes. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have too much concrete other things to say, I guess. Because it just washes over me, really. And like, yeah, I don't feel like you were you introduced the show in such a way that like sticks with me, or the way that like I don't know, that it's hard to like follow in that way. Like, what is, all I got really was that they were in a submarine. There's some action, there's some battle, there's some comedy, and there's really high quality, And to be fair, that is the kind of talk that I like about that I prefer over very slavishly talking about what's going on in this sort of thing and what the plot is and whatever. I guess, yeah. I don't know. It's a tough balance, I guess, of that experiential and basic information that I'm wanting the balance of, I guess. But yeah, it's good vibes. I enjoyed it. So I don't have too much further. Oh, also the mention of other creators that like, are shining lights on these really obscure stuff. That was really nice too. Lovely. Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. Okay, now what I thought were the best videos of the week. What I thought were the best videos of the week. I thought so. And this one's Karl Andersson. Don't think I've talked about his stuff. Showed it, but I've seen it around. And this was also like linked to my in my Discord. Shota in anime. What did the studios think? Did they like boys? And I'm not gonna lie, man. I was nervous and kind of like timid about clicking this video just because it's like I was fearful of some kind of condemnation or this like it's like the Vice, I think it was Vice talking about like lolicon in Japan or something like that like was really hard to, I didn't even try to watch it. It was just something to like avoid. It was just like, oh, because it's not being done in good faith and not from a perspective of empathy or even just intelligence, because not just like, oh, they're stupid. It's more like you don't know where to look. You don't know who to talk to. You don't know how to approach this, and Karl isn't expressed like he's doing his anthropological study, like PhD in Shota culture. Like this is his thing, that he's focusing on. And it is fascinating because it is because of the taboo subject, right? Because you don't want to be accused of the P word, you know? And the approach was great because he's just talking about it without even not even addressing that stuff, not even like entertaining the idea, because it isn't about that. And they claim, and cynics might just claim that oh yeah, right, but I like that, like, he kind of comes up from the attack point of like, it's not like creeps, it's women that like, this is an existing scene, and this is the stuff that the fan scene, the doujinshi, complete the actual culture here. It isn't simply like kind of an outsider take or anything. And it's not and it's not like super trying to get you into it or something like that. And not that would have been a bad thing. I just think that would have distracted from the messages that are trying to be displayed here, or even just like the analysis here, which is the whole thing. It's no different from like analysis of anything that we do. Keeping in mind that like anime itself was kind of considered low art or like taboo, or oh, isn't that that porn shit. I'm sorry to invoke a slur there, but that's what it was called. That's what it was referred to for years, and it is such a summit that we've come this far, that we can talk so casually about this stuff. But there is still these subjects like Shotokan that are still touched. They're still like being handled with radioactive material, right? And I just really like that Karl is able to completely flush that out, not even try to like attack it or address it or anything. He's treating it as like anything else, which it should be, and I'm sorry that that's just what I think. That's what really, like, I was coming in with those preconceived or whatever, or that sort of like, concern or whatever. But like, I think he did a really great job. And this has been the case with his other videos too. I started with a different video than this one. But then like being like, oh, he really is living in Japan, talking with experts, diving into the magazines from the 80s and 90s, like the old scene, talking with people, physically handling the material, like the actual magazines and stuff like that, and not just be like, oh, like, I love the observation that he has about Yowamushi Pedal here, where he has the initial magazine that it was published in, and it's really rough, it's really intense, and he says like, oh, like, I'm into cycling as well, like and but you're looking at it and it doesn't have the elements that he's talking about with like the muscular and the way these characters are being displayed that women and people into Shotokan have been into, or anything, what they're looking for, that appeal or whatever. And I like that it's a broader subject, because it's talking about the thing about anime, that like, you're drawing these things that are attractive and appealing. You're trying to draw things in an exciting way, so that because it's maximum enjoyment, right? All the characters should be hot. Like Sadamoto designs, Evangelion and Fooly Cooly and all that. All the characters are cool and attractive in one way or another, regardless of age or race or gender or anything, right? It's sort of that's what anime does, and that's what manga does. And not all of them. Like Urasawa has a bunch of middle-aged men and everything, but I'll talk about that video later. But like even his conversation with Yoneyama Mai, they're talking about how fun it is to draw old men because they have this like creativity, this like they can all be different shapes and have all these fun expressions and stuff like that, and they're attractive in their own way, and not in a romantic or sexual way. It's just sort of just like it's just the human form, we're attracted like, as fellow humans, anatomy, right? Anyway, but like the point that he was making about Yowamushi Pedal going from the magazine to the tankobon, and the tankobon covers are explicitly drawn as like trying to attract that audience, even though the material itself, the actual the actual manga, doesn't feature much of that, and that the figures and the anime too, kind of leaning into those aspects. And I like that he goes out of his ways, like reaches out to these Japanese companies for comment of like, hey, are you doing this intentionally? Are you doing this to attract this audience? And he talks to this other expert where it's like there's a front door and a back door. There's the front business, and that's kind of like what we want to present ourselves as, and then there's that backdoor business where it's like, I mean, yeah, we have these ulterior motives, but we're not going to admit that we're doing that, and it's similar. It reminds me of the Mina Agachao first. It was going to be like one of the first releases in the US, and it's kind of cute little fan servicey type of title. And the Japanese company in the Japanese release put the liner notes on paper panties, and they included them in the release. And it's like, oh, isn't that cute? And so like the US company wanted to be faithful to that release and include the paper panties, and so he bought a bunch of them, right? And the Japanese company that he licensed that title from recalled their license because they were afraid of their public image being, because their names are on the panties. Is the irony, right? Because it's like that's what you're doing, but then you don't want to display yourself in that. It's like, it's so incredible. They just have the two-facedness of that was just so incredible. But it reminded me of that like front facing and back face. So there's a lot of like material, like talking about the anime industry and manga industry in a broader sense that isn't just about like shota and anime, which it's like I get people being squeamish about hentai or about lolicon or about various whatever yaoi yuri if they have that preclusion again. I don't know if preclusion is even the word for it, really. Aversion. I think aversion is the word. But that can extend to anything, right? Whereas like people's like, I don't have any interest in kids anime or mecha anime or shonen, shoujo, whatever. In fact, the next video kind of tackled that actually. But anyway, yeah, it was just a really well produced video, very thoughtful and interesting, and it felt safe, it felt like a safe environment to talk about these sort of thing. And it's important because it is a factor of the medium and the industry. Yeah, I love that he's active on YouTube and doing this sort of stuff. It's fantastic. He's doing great. Not like other shoujo, Colleen is cooking. Oh, they are cooking. I apologize for my coverage of the past because I don't believe they made a point about it, and they don't even have it in their bio. That YouTube actually recently put a feature that you can put there's a space where you can put pronouns, but Colleen recognizes themselves as non-binary. I did not know that, and I only found that out in a pinned comment where someone was complaining that they were conflating AFAB and girl or women or something like that, where it's like that's not always the case. But not like other shoujo. Yeah, like I said, they're cooking. Oh my gosh, they're cooking. So it's the idea that like shoujo in itself is bad. And it's literally the same as like, unlike other mecha, this one's good. This one's about the characters or whatever. And that kind of reminded me of. And this applies to everything. Every genre. I don't appreciate that Colleen downplayed that shonen and seinen do this too, because there's a whole like masculine thing going on. I get it's a separate issue. I think there's something to be said that this is happening to but that's not to belittle what happens with shoujo. And I agree that it's more intense in that way, just in their spaces, in the spaces that Colleen's in. No, but like, yeah, I really appreciated the cooking of just like banana fish is like so good because it's unlike a bunch of shoujo, and then Colleen totally dismantles that, being like, here's all of its lineage that it's taking from that are all shoujo, that this is not out of nowhere. You know. Oh, it's fantastic. It is one of the best things that I come to Colleen's channel for, is that I do have very little experience with shoujo manga in general. For one thing, I really am more of an anime person, and unfortunately it is true that there isn't a whole lot of shoujo adaptations, at least not even complete ones, never mind complete ones, but like at all, is what I get, you know. But I really appreciate, like, it was just the kind of the tackling of like this perception that the only shoujo titles are dark, actiony, one of the boys, right? And even just, you know, psychoanalyzing this idea where it's stemming from not like other girls, and what Colleen's experience of that is. But yeah, it was a great, and all the quotes that they were pulling from Mal and Goodreads and everything like that, so good. I was like, you're cooking, yes. That sort of idea is hopefully something I'm kind of tackling in this main channel video I'm working on, sort of where it's me, you know, this most anime is bad but not this one type of. I also wanted to mention, because I was just like really excited about this idea that, like, you know, that like everyone only wants to go to the dark, edgy action type of titles. Meanwhile, this is my personal perspective, I don't want that. I actually am not that interested in Banana Fish or Akatsu no Yona, or I don't know, these other ones like Seven Seeds or whatever. I could be wrong if that one's a shoujo. I think it is. I want the romance. I want the sparkles. I want the stuff that feels like an actual, even though that stuff is shoujo, like Rose of Versailles, you know, Basara, I think was the other one that Colleen mentioned. That's in that like a in between. That's like a good lineage of these action oriented titles. Yeah, like I want the bread and butter stuff that feels more like shoujo, I guess, or the more typical shoujo, because its stuff is fun and interesting and really funny and beautiful and emotional and sweet. I just finished like Saint Tail a couple weeks ago. Oh my gosh, I'm like, can I have more of that, please? Can I please? Like more of the yum yum. Oh, that was so lovely. I do want more of that for sure. But anyway, yeah, I just think this was a great observation for Colleen, and great video. Yeah, I really, really liked it. And I'm sorry again about the pronouns. I had no idea. To you, who feels like they're not progressing, boy, doesn't that feel relatable? Moondoggie. Yeah. But then, you know, this is coming from an artist's perspective. I can't imagine being an artist and like being on Twitter and seeing all the art and being like, fuck. I can't imagine that. I did do art. I've done art. I draw, but I thankfully don't put as much stock. I don't like practice, and I'm not as into it the same way Moondoggie is. And all the ideas with like 1 in 100 and refining and the humor here and the relatability. was all really on point. I'm happy that this video is doing really well. It seems to be surging. It's already yeah, 2 days ago, it's already close to surpassing a lot of your other vids. Of course, it's not the one that blew up like hell like a year ago, but I should check that one out. It seems like fun. Yeah, that seems like a good. I just hover over the thumbnail, and it's the shot you have of all the Pokemon trainer protagonists going down the row like that. I'm like, that's nice. Yeah, the craft is great here, and getting better at, like, not like I've been following you so closely or anything like that, but just the world that you're crafting, the prose that you're using, and the messages that you want to send that are very positive and uplifting and relatable. Hashtag relatable. Yeah, it's really sweet. It's really sweet. I guess my perspective with not making progress and stuff, with seeing other people's success and thought passing you, and this is obviously something I've tackled with a while, and I've talked about it on Digest in the ether. It's obviously who knows how much Digest I've made at this point, but like the idea for me when I see people being more successful than I am, getting more subs or view whatever, I take it as that, like, more money, more problems, or the likes and the attention and the talent that this artist might have doesn't necessarily take away from their own problems and something they might be going through. It's not easy for them, and they are probably also feeling the exact same way as you are about other artists, because they're the ones who all you see is the finished product. And you can probably understand this, but like, all you see is the finished product, and you know how much time and work went to get into that. So you don't see it as lofty as other people might. And it's like, I think a lot of art, I don't know, I can't really generalize, I guess, but like, I feel that way, at least when I make stuff, and then people kind of give these incredible compliments, these really nice words about the stuff that I make, right? It's similar kind of like that, where I'm like, well, oh man, oh shucks, resko coreano. I am so chopper. Like, it is unreal how Oda got me like that. Like, oh, how did you know? No, I've been seen. No, but yeah, I guess we're all human beings. We're all going through our own things, and our own shortcomings and fallibility, and just trying to make it, but yeah, I think it's a great reminder. I think it's also good to hear from you, because I think your art has progressed to a point that feels so polished, and like, it doesn't feel like you would be based on what your art looks like and how your animation looks like. So I've talked about in the previous coverage, feels so authentic to anime. It's really impressive how the compositing feels on point, the designs feel on point, the motion feels good, feels like accurate. Even just the composition and pacing of like the edits and cuts and stuff like that, it doesn't feel like a US fan, yeah, fan project type of thing. They're influenced in one way or another. Not that there's anything wrong with that. No. But I guess it is so polished and impressive that you still having this self-conscious, self-deprecating, relatable message really rings that much truer, I guess, because it's like, wow, someone like you is also going through something like this, right? At least that's my perspective on it. Yeah, so I really love the message of this. It's really, and yeah, it's not something a lot of people are making at this point, because it's not like flashy or conceptual, right? It doesn't have an audience, like, with YouTube, the way it's set up, telling a story or a narrative, or answering some question, or piquing an audience's curiosity is usually what YouTube wants. And so it's more like, it's less curiosity and more like, oh, I need this. I really need to hear this. And that's what I would hope. I would want more out of YouTube, to be honest with you. Yeah, so you're doing a great service here. I really appreciate it. It's really great. Now let's go. I think the best video this week is from Netflix Anime, Naoki Urasawa and Mai Yoneyama on the passion of drawing. It does have spoilers for Pluto. I muscled through. I was like, maybe they won't be so bad. But she does name drop a particular character in a particular scene that's like, yeah, that's pretty spoilery. She's like, I don't know if I can mention it here, but that part really means a lot to me, or something. And I still appreciate that she's able to say that to the creator, like to the author who had that moment and everything. And gosh, it was so, Urasawa, talking with any fellow artist, you can tell he's done this for years, and this is like he's become a professional of his own at it. Like, he's so multi-talented because he's, obviously not even just a world-renowned manga artist and author, but also a musician, and also the host of Manben, which is that Japanese TV show of visiting various manga artists. Or it might just be manga. I think it is, because that's obviously what he's specialized in, but it could be other things. I don't know. I haven't seen all the episodes or anything, but he, goes and visits and talks to various manga creators and talks about how they do their thing. I love that. The episodes have been great. What I've seen of it, but you can tell he's been doing that for years. So when he's just having a conversation with Yoneyama Mai here, he knows exactly how to guide a conversation to incorporate the art and drawing the thing and the actual tactile and talking about drawing itself. And it is really funny how there's a contrast with the two of them, where Naoki Urasawa just draws a ton. He just draws really, really fast. And Yoneyama is admiring that, but it makes sense. He has to, because he's a manga artist, right? You have to draw a lot in a short period of time. But then contrast that with Yoneyama, who just does one still, and she's talking about her perspective. She's like, I want to communicate everything in one instant, sort of deal, which is great. She is the character designer for Kisniver specifically. That's what I knew her from. I looked at her her ANN, and I was like, oh, okay. But she's also she's mostly like an illustrator and everything. She started in animation, but she's currently more like an illustrator. She also did design work for Promare and some other stuff, other stuff. But yeah, really, just I wouldn't have expected it. She didn't have as much to like what seems kind of a random pick. But I'm happy. That was a wonderful pick. She's like a younger, like from a next generation. She says like the first anime she watched was Monster. I know it is like, wow. I don't know, just like in talking to a legend like that, and the legend being so open book and engaging and enthusiastic and curious, and really funny. He totally nails her style, where he's like, you do all these like swirls, and she's like, oh, like calls her out like completely, not in a bad way, but totally like she's like, this is how you draw, and he does like a version, and she's like, yeah, that's basically it. It's just like, you got me. My camera ran out, so I should probably finish. Yeah, this was wonderful, delightful. A plus, of course, but yeah, kudos to the translating and the filming of all this. It was very unobtrusive and engaging and great. Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted. I didn't even know I wanted it. I will say, yeah, it is like a spoiler to like past episode 6. I haven't finished Pluto yet, so I was spoiled to this. But I kind of knew it was gonna happen. I kind of knew that would happen, basically. But that specific image it's pretty spoilery. So yeah. Anyway, I really, really enjoyed this. All right, that'll do for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.